Hey everybody, it's Yankee here, also known as 22. Welcome to the channel, Yankees Outdoor Adventures. Today I'm going to talk to you about thru hiking. So if you're new to thru hiking, this video is for you. Now I don't know if you know it or not, but I'm an avid thru hiker. I've been thru hiking most of my life. I have done several trails like the Appalachian Trail, done several treks of the Trail of Tears, multiple trails in between and around about. Although there's also a lot of trails I still haven't done and looking forward to doing in the future. But if you're new to thru hiking and this is something that you really want to try, it's an adventure that you'll never forget. I'll guarantee you that. It's an awesome way to get out and see the world. But before you get headed out on your first time thru hike, there's a few things I think you should know. So here you go. I hope you're all gearing up for a summer full of awesome outdoor adventures. I know I am, and thru hiking again is one of my favorite things to do. So before you guys get started, here's number one. Health and fitness. Health and fitness is really important. If you've never done a thru hike before, you're going to experience some body pains and strains that you didn't even know existed. One of the things I like to give people as advice is before you embark on a major adventure like something like the Appalachian Trail, I'll use as an example, you need to keep a few things in mind. First of all, the average person can only walk about 3 miles per hour. Now it's not very fast, and that's under perfect conditions. You can walk 3 miles an hour. If you add in the variables of uphill, downhill, other rough terrain, you'll find out really quickly that 3 minutes or 3 miles rather doesn't fit the bill. So you take on a trail, say like the Appalachian Trail, you're looking at a trail that's over 1,000 miles long. Now, at 3 miles an hour, at best, you're looking at a really, really long adventure. So before you head out and take a trail on like that, I totally recommend to make sure you're physically fit to do so. If you've never done any long hikes before, you need to get out and do some day hiking. You need to go to your local state parks. Every state park in every area that people live, you'll find a nature trail. Nature trails can be anywhere from 1 mile long to 10 miles long, or maybe even longer. But the fact is, you need to go out there and you need to walk these trails. You need to learn how fast you walk. You need to learn, how to judge your timing on a long hike. In addition to that, I also think when you go out, you should carry your gear with you, regardless of how funny you may look going on the mile day trail carrying all this backpacking gear. You will appreciate it in the long run if you accustom yourself now to what you're going to be carrying then. So your gear is being with you, that's really important. And that brings us up to number two. The gear you're going to carry. Now, this right here is kind of a sticky topic, because if you took 10 thru hikers and asked all 10 of them what gear they recommend carrying, you're most likely going to get 10 different answers. I mean, aside from the essentials. The reason this is because we all are hiking our own hike. We are all out to enjoy our day in the way that it makes us happy, because we're doing this, you are doing it for you, I'm doing it for me. We don't do it for each other. So for me to actually tell you, you need this, this, and this, that's not really true. You need to learn what you need. How do you learn what you need? Go back to the essentials. You're going to be doing day hikes to get yourself ready. You're going to start to extend them day hikes into overnights. When you're getting yourself out there for 3 overnights, 4 overnights, you're going to quickly realize that there's types of gear you do need, and there's things that you really don't. Nobody wants to carry excess gear for no reason. It's a lot of back-breaking aggravation for nothing. So when it comes to the gear, don't take anyone's opinion on what you have to have. I'll give you a great example. If you ask people about through hiking, you'll get arguments between the type of tent to bring with you on a through hike. I personally, I don't carry a tent at all. So, you know, for me to give you advice on what tent to buy, yeah, I really don't have any because I don't use one. But for me to tell you you don't need a tent, that's just as bad, because you may need a tent. You may not appreciate the work that goes into taking care of your own shelter. I personally, I think it's a trade-off. You know, what you don't carry in weight, you do in work. So be it. But again, you need to learn what's right for you, and you can do that by day hikes and overnights, and learn yourself what you need. Outside again of the essentials, you're going to need to start fire. You're going to need to purify water. You're going to need to eat. If you can handle that, you're going to make it anyway. Water. I mean, undoubtedly, no one's going to argue with water being an essential. I always recommend carrying a way to purify your own water. There's several things on the market you can buy to help you with this, and you can also buy purifying tabs to put in your water. But another thing too to keep in mind, to take away from it all being so much work while you're out on your adventure, if you take the time and plot your course, and you find out where all the park stations and whatnot are along your course, you'll quickly realize that there's a lot of places for you to fill up on drinking water. So carry the canteens. You may encounter stretches where you can't get water, so you be prepared to carry extra weight of water. But water weight's one of the heaviest things you're going to carry, and it's a necessity. So that is truly one of the hardest things to work around, is making sure that you do have clean water for consumption. So again, these are things you can take care of en route with fill-up stations, and most of these routes, they're designated hiking routes, and there are places to fill up with on water. And just a little bit of research before you head out onto the trail you choose, you will find these spots. Food. You gotta eat. Food is definitely an essential. Now, food, again, like water, if you plan out your trip in detail, you can have plenty of places set aside on your trip to re-up on your food supply. I would personally like to give the advice of how to obscure your own food along the trail to avoid having to A, spend the money, and B, come out of the woods and deal with people. But that's illegal, so I can't give you that advice. So all I have to say there is you have to read between the lines on that. If you want to keep up your nourishment, there's no way you can pack enough food to last you the entire length of the Appalachian Trail. You won't have enough room for that much food. So you will have to set up way stations along the way to restock your supplies. And that brings us to the next point. Mapping. You know, a lot of people think that you can just head off and have a destination, maybe bring a compass and go, but on a lot of these through trails, you'll encounter parks that have day hike trails that cross your trail. Your trail may turn in or fork off, and if you don't know which way to go and which trail to travel, you're gonna get lost. No one wants to be lost. So any park that you go through, if you investigate the park beforehand, in some cases you may have to notify the park itself, but there will be maps of the trail that you are hiking through their park. Finding a map of an entire trail, especially one that crosses more than one state, that gets a little more difficult. But if you research it first and know what parks you're going through and what towns you're going through, then you can know who to notify to find out if they have a map available, and most likely they do. So mapping is very, very important. You're going to need it to know where your way stations are, and that brings us up to the next one. Footwear. Footwear is one that I just cannot stress enough on how important your footwear is. Don't rush out, buy a brand new pair of high dollar hiking boots and think, oh boy, I'm all ready to go now, because you're not. You need a pair of boots on your feet that are broken in already, one that you're used to wearing. You don't want your shoes to be too big or too small. Either or is a brutal killer on the trail. And you want your shoes to be broke in, something that's ready for good walking and for some long walking. The number one thing that'll stop you in your tracks is blisters. Blisters can slow down your hike or just completely kill it altogether. So your feet, you got to take care of them. Now, as you're on a thru hike, your feet are your transportation. They are your number one priority. So take care of your feet, and they'll take care of you. Weather radio. There's one there that you may get argument on with other thru hikers on whether or not you need it. I consider myself a pretty good judge of the weather just from watching and learning over the years. But I still like to carry a weather radio. Why? Well, because like the signs of the times and just like the weather, man, nothing's 100%. So if something gives you an edge on the trail, take it with you. It's worth it. Knowing that you're coming into a week of rain before it happens, that can be a really helpful thing to go through. Also, a lot of the NOAA weather radio stations, when you're in the certain areas and regions, will announce things like flash floods and forest fires. So again, really, really good to have with you. So I recommend anyone carries a weather radio, preferably one that doesn't need batteries. Batteries is extra weight, and you don't want to leave your dead ones on the trail. So if you bring a battery with you, you're bringing it home even after it's dead. Okay, so crank her up. That's your best. You better have a plan. A plan is essential. You got to have your A plan. You got to know where you're going. You got to have an estimation on how long you want it to take you to get there, and you got to set that goal and go for it. But that plan's not enough. There are so many things that can change your plans. You know that from normal life. You can't ever write it down and say this is how it's going to go and it go that way. So you need a secondary plan as well. If something were to happen, things slow down, do you need possibly alternate routes when you get into certain areas? These are all things that you can discover on your mapping, and make sure you are already planning on something else to do if things go astray. So have a plan. know about the dangers for the area. Every area may have different dangers that you have to know about. So if you're doing a through hike that's going across several regions, you need to educate yourself a little bit on what you're going to encounter. May it be poisonous snakes or wild animals. Maybe you're in an area where it's real forest fire prone or flash flood prone, or there are several types of dangers that can occur. So you do need to be aware of the area you're going to be going into, and see what dangers are known for the area. And then always you got to stay attentive, be alert to your surroundings. Don't ever think you're just get to relax and forget about everything. While you're out hiking and walking, you're going to keep your eye on everything around you at all times. Not only are you going to eat in the beautiful scenery, but you're also going to be staying alert so that you make your trip all the way to the end. Okay, guys, number 10, expect the unexpected. Plain and simple, no matter what you do, no matter how hard or how well you plan, things can happen that you're not going to account for. So, in my opinion, it's always good to play little games with yourself of what if, what if I throw my back out, or what if my food gets ruined, or what if it rains for a straight week. Oh, mercy, been there. If you keep these type of things in your mind, you run around these scenarios, it will help you when you encounter the situation. It'll help you create your plan B also, because we need that. So, if you guys have any questions or if there's any details you want to know about the trails, I'd also help with that. Just let me know in a comment down below. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, definitely would appreciate it. I do want to tell you too that if you do these trails and you set up way stations, any of the state parks have a policy where you can mail supplies in advance. So like if you notify, say you're going into Pennsylvania, you got one of the parks at the Delaware Gap that you're going to be passing on a certain week, you can have a package mailed to that station in advance before you get there. You can mail it yourself from home before you leave on your trip, and they'll hold it for you there till you arrive to pick it up. So that's another great service that they do offer at most of the parks. Again, you'll want to set these things up prior to leaving. I'd also advise anyone on any trip that you go out on to make sure somebody knows where you're at. Make sure somebody knows your A plan and your B plan. At least your B plan to an extent. I mean, I can understand sometimes B's got to be made on the fly, but if you already know that, look, if I can't make it to this point, I'm going to bail at this point, you make sure somebody else knows that too. You don't want to be the next search party guy we're all looking for. So definitely keep in touch with somebody on the outside so that they know how you're doing and where you're at, and that way, in case you do have a problem and someone's got to come get you, we'd have a better idea of where to start looking. So guys, again, thanks for being here. Until next time, I hope you make your outdoor adventures a great one. Winishi.